Hello everyone, my name is Eileen Moriarty Donahue. I know it's been a short while, so I wanted to give you all the names so you knew where I was coming from. It's very nice to be back at this facility, and just to jog your memory, I was president back in 1997. I come from a very strong background here at the Irish American Home Society. At a very young age, let's say from birth, I said we were always with family. Family was very involved in the Irish Club and in the activities and in the culture and in entirely everything, and our foundation was based on our heritage. I'm very pleased to say that my paternal grandparents met at the Irish Club down on Park Street. Over the Lira, my cousins, my Aunt Minnie and my Uncle Tom were the very strong force in my initial unit family, my dad, my mom, my brothers and I, getting involved with the Irish Club, because they kept telling us, oh, well, we got this, or we got that, you guys come and enjoy this. And they made it sound like such a great place to come that we definitely came down. Like I say, my family constantly came here, and memories were always of the music and the food, and most enjoyable, the humor and the friendships. Growing up in the base that I did in my home, we were blessed with a lot of times being host families. And even as a very young person, we were called like the bed and breakfast of West Hartford. And as different groups came in, be it athletic groups, be it musicians, from wherever, from around the United States, from Ireland, wherever, we were the host family, and we would have people stay at our home. And it was just from when I was this high until basically when I moved out. They were always coming around. We actually had Colin McGregor when he was starting out as a fighter. He came with some other gentlemen, and they stayed, and that was quite the adventure. They were different than the rest of the folks that usually came, let's put it that way. We had cultist groups come, and a lot of the host families around from the different towns, what we would do is that we wanted to keep their nuclear together so that they weren't so foreign. They weren't just at someone else's home, but then they could still kind of hang out with their friends from the groups that they came with. So for the music groups that would come, we would have everybody at our house, because we seemed to have the biggest 2 areas of space, and we had the piano. So that helped out with a lot of the music situations. So we would just push the furniture to the end of the room, and we would have sessions between the living room and dining room with as many people as wanted to come. And that's how we grew up, and it was just an amazing thing. And that's what it really exposed me to so much. And it really taught us the warmth and the welcoming of our culture, because that's who we are. Coming from that, with everything going on, there were times where, like I say, we would host. But if you're hosting, you also have to do a lot of prep work. And a lot of times what we would do is we would meet up with other families, and we would do the prep work even as we were little, because even when you're little, you can do tasks. So we would maybe stuff envelopes, or everybody at the kitchen table, and there'd be pizza boxes and whatever, and the little kids were over here and you have your task, and then the next age group you have your task, and the next group, okay, now the bigger kids, they can do more of the entailed or detailed information. Especially when the fesh came around. We would all head over to a certain person's house, and it was just a blast. Doing all of the activities and getting everything set and making sure that every I was dotted, every T was crossed, doing the scheduling, doing everything. And going to the feshes and having, later in life, my kids come in tow, they became part of the group, and they would start helping, and then my daughter started dancing, and then that was a whole other horror show, because you can't work over here and then run over here and watch her dance, for all those parents who have tried to accommodate this. But new experiences brought more volunteer times. So you start to grow in the club, and you do more activities. So now, instead of just being behind the scenes, now you're at an age where it's time to step it up. So you start peeling potatoes, and you become part of the kitchen crew. And then the kitchen crew becomes part of the serving, and part of more coming down with my parents to set up for more events and whatever. At the same time, you start networking yourself, and you find out, like, hey, my friends are doing the parade committee. So you go into the parade committee, and the next thing you know, you're doing that type of an activity, or you're out on the field because okay, there's a game and now someone's got to pass the hat. So you fill in the gaps. And it's never been a job. It's always been such an adventure and so wonderful, because no matter what you went, even if you did it wrong, it was okay. You know, and some organizations aren't like that. So it's been a great experience, and I was very fortunate that the more that I became involved, the more that people asked me to do. And then my confidence grew, because then I started going into becoming more involved with certain groups and actually taking on more leadership roles. So the club for me was a great experience because it brought me out of my comfort zone. It's easy to sit in the backside and do the stuff, but when you come out and you start kind of like getting more and more involved and you start coming forward, you get to start showing other people they can do it too, even if it's not their comfort zone. And if that's what can help as an enticement to people to keep everything going, that's what you do. And at the same time, you have so much fun. I came up through the ground up. I started out mostly with the parade committee and started out just helping out, you know, as a group person. And then it was like, okay, so now we're going to do this or we're going to do that. And then instead of going to a town, I became the secretary and then worked in different aspects of the parade committee. The only position I really ever held was secretary in that organization, because at the same time I started getting more involved with the club itself. So I became secretary to the club, and I did that for a number of years. After that, I decided that, okay, I want to see if I can get some different activities going. So I kind of got pushed by some of my friends. They're like, okay, vice president is in charge of activities, so you do this. Well, we're right behind you. I was like, okay, let's try that. So I became vice president, and then after 2 years is when I decided to become president. One of the reasons that I decided to sort of like throw my hat in the ring, so to speak, to be president, for me, it's family legacy. The family that I came from had such strong beliefs in this organization. And I kind of looked around and I didn't see a lot of my family really coming forward. And it kind of made me sad. And like, no, I said, if our generation doesn't do something, then we're leaving it to someone. And not that I'm going to do it 100% perfect, but at least I want to try. So it was family legacy at the forefront, but I also had a strong interest in keeping the organization afloat. And there are at times age differences. So having held prior positions and found that I could work across the aisle, so to speak, I sort of felt that maybe I could continue that and maybe incorporate and encourage other friends and family in my age level to keep coming up and to enjoy so that this organization stays solvent and it stays vibrant and it stays going. There was a small part of me that followed Cora, because I have great respect for Cora. But what I wanted to do was to have another female, and I'm not like that usually, but there was a little part of me that wanted to be a younger female, and I wanted to be the first female in my family, so that family that follows me knows it's okay. You know, take that leap, get out of your comfort zone. And I gave it my best shot. But the way that I would address pros and cons within the organization was basically trying to find a balance. The balance between the historical activities that are wonderful and traditional and formulated in such a way that sometimes they might need to be tweaked, and trying to find a balance to do that and still incorporate some new concepts and new ideas without trying to, you know, make anyone upset or upset the apple cart, or try to say that what you did is obsolete, or to try like, oh, my stuff is gonna work, and then have someone say, oh, it's never been done before. Trying not to hit those boundaries and hit those walls. It's better just to come together, discuss it, and then maybe come to common ground, and then find activities that everyone can enjoy. But at the same time, finding that time was sometimes difficult under monetary constraints, because you want to make sure that as much as you have a fabulous idea, it's going to cost something, and you try to make sure that even though you're striving for something to be comfortable and exciting, and everybody's like, oh my God, that was great, you have to also make sure that you're not coming from a point where you're making it too expensive for people to attend or too expensive for the club to put it on. So that was hard, trying to always watch the purse strings. And there were times when it's like, okay, we've always done this, and then it was like, oh my goodness. It's like, you want to do it, but how can we fix it so that people can really attend? So sometimes that was more of a con than a pro, but again, it's not negative, because there's always a way. And when you put it out to different people, sometimes new ideas do come up, and you get the reaction that you want. And that's what I was always hoping for, is that an event wouldn't be an empty hall, but maybe there would be tables that were filled and people would be laughing and having fun. And that was just our goal. It's, the name of this organization is Irish American Home for a reason. And it's because it should be welcoming, and it should be a place of comfort and peace. And that was my goal, to try to make our activities in that light. I started at such an early age in the club, and there were just so many funny stories, some of which I will take to the grave. Because Thanksgiving week, and I don't know if they still do it here, Thanksgiving week we had the turkey shoot, and it was a dart game. And some of the members from the dart club would come down, and they always had this big, ginormous turkey. The person who scored higher gets the turkey. Okay. So I had come down that evening. It was one of the first things that I had ever come down just with my dad. Sometimes we came down with groups, whatever. Just my dad and I came down. He had stuff to do, and I was going to help him set up for an event later in the week. And they came down, and they were doing the turkey shoot. So they suddenly come in, they knock on the office door at that point, and they say, can you play? And my dad played darts all the time. I said, can you play? We have an odd number. And without hesitation, my dad being my dad's like, I can't, but she will. And I looked at him in complete fear. It's like, Dad, I'm 18, and I've never shot a dart in my entire life. And my dad being my dad was just like, Eileen, look at the board, hold the dart, throw it. You've got it. It's like, yeah. And I just came out here and I said, okay, fine, I'll do it. So I told him I'll be back in a minute, because I'm going to be out. There's just no way it's going to happen. So I came out, signed up my name, put in I think it was like $5 or whatever. It was ridiculous. And started waiting for everybody to go through the process. So I got the dart. My dad came out, and he sat in his normal chair, first chair here at the end of the bar. And he goes, I looked over at him, and he goes, just look and shoot. So I did, and I got a bullseye. And there was complete in the whole bar. It was like, who shot that? And my dad laughingly said, she did. So now we're being accused of being a ringer. And I was like, I've never shot this before. So as time went on, we're going through, we're doing elimination. Make a long story short, I went home with the turkey that night. I have never shot a dart ever again. Beginner's luck is wonderful. I believe in it, and I will stick with it. That's it. But it was one of those things that, for me, it was the belief my dad had in me. And that's just always resonated. It's like, first thing, I can never say no to my dad. And he just had such faith. And to see him sitting there laughing so hard while all these other dart players are having a complete hissy fit. It was just like, and I don't think I ever said I'm sorry so much in my entire life. It was like, I'm so sorry, I'm just shooting. But it was fun. They're great memories. It was St. Patrick's Day Parade in Hartford, and a bunch of us got the bright idea that, you know what, we need to make a float. So we made a float, and it was a flatbed, and it had the car was like underneath it with the big hitch, and we always wondered, it's like, is that gonna work or is it gonna fall apart? And we figured, no, it's fine. We did a test run, we drove it all around West Hartford, everything was great. So we decorate it, and it's the Dingle Dolphin. And we were all so proud because a lot of us, our ancestors come from Dingle. And it was like, great. My grandmother would have been so thrilled. She always talked about the Dingle Dolphin. So float was gorgeous. We won an award. We were so high and so excited. Cold day, we pop all of our kids up on the float. Hot chocolate mugs, blankets, it was freezing cold. And we start off. We start going down the road, everything's fine. They go to take the left, and all the parents are walking behind. They go to take the left, and all of a sudden, someone goes, "What's that?" And it was like a scene from Animal House. All the smoke is coming out from underneath the bed of the float. The engine part, it's got like sparks popping out of it and more black smoke. There's gray smoke coming this way. And we've got our kids on this float. So the parents all ran alongside, and our kids, I think the eldest was like 11, never panicked at all. The older kids, 11 and 10, maybe 9, went to the sides and started dropping the younger ones down to the adult. And then that adult would give the child to the next adult. So it was almost like a water bucket brigade in respect. As we're running alongside this float that's still moving with the smoke, and all the adults are coughing, and people along the sides are screaming, "Call the fire department." It was a horror show, but our kids never panicked. And then we got all the kids off, and thank God it's the St. Patrick's Day parade, because there's no way that you can step for 4 or 5 steps without someone that knows someone who knows someone. So we had a tremendous amount of help on the sidelines, and we had families that were like holding onto the children as we ran and got the rest of them off. And then finally our adult kids, 9, 10, 11, were able to get off, and we all got together, and then we were able to part the ways a little bit down further so that we could get the disastrous float down a side street so the fire department could come and help us out. Now we don't march, so to speak, but we have a section right by just past the Capitol. We put up the tents, we have all the food, and our group is growing every year to enjoy a fabulous day. I think what I'm most proud of is my family legacy. And I know I keep referring back to that, but my roots are very strong. And I have had such a great time as I went through different organizations in my lifespan, that I was able to share that with some of my older relatives and receive their comments, good or bad. I mean, my family doesn't hold back. So if I put something forward, sometimes they would be very kind, or they would just make the face. And it would be like, okay, Irish people they just do. So you just kind of know, but they were always very supportive at the same time. And that's something that I'm very proud of, is that I was able to show them that, the legacy was still there. It was truly an honor to represent the Irish American home based on my heritage, my family values, and I enjoyed sharing the club information with others. I was very honored and blessed during the course of my presidency to be asked to go to different locations. And that was something I didn't know presidents did. So I was, okay, we'll try it. So I'm not really a public speaker, but somehow going to an organization and expressing to them who we are and what we do, why we do it, and just made it easier. It was familiar, it was comfortable. It really was phenomenal the way that people were receptive. There was one time that I went to an organization and they were sort of flabbergasted. It's like, well, we've heard that your group has had female people in positions in the past, but how old are you? Which was kind of strange. Okay, so I'm 30 years old, I'm the mom of 2 kids, and yes, I am the president of the Irish American Home. Would you like to join? It became conversations like that, and I think the way that I approached it, it just became very comfortable and very familiar. But I will end with the note that it was it was quite the moment, let's put it that way, to meet Jerry Adams outside on our field when we had the opportunity to invite him when he made his appearance in the United States for what he needed to do. And I'm going to leave it with that, and it was a wonderful, wonderful thing, wonderful memory that I always cherish. And again, it's a familiar thing, it's a heritage thing, and yeah, it was nice to meet him for my grandfather. Very, very nice.